Okay, Brian's question. What are the parameters that you mentioned where someone could quit their job and lend full time? Okay, Brian, that's an interesting question because there's a lot of nuances to it. Are you running your own cash? Do you have a pool of investors that are borrowing money from you? Do you not have your own cash, but you've established and identified a pool of lenders that you can take deals to? And are you generating enough money in points, fees, and bird dog fees that you're making more money than you have at your job? If so, that's something you would need to decide either on your own or with your spouse or something like that. I would really discourage you, however, from doing that until you had structured your financial situation better so that rather than just quitting your job, you stayed at your job, but you transferred your income from job to another entity. So your income from your existing job went into another entity where you set yourself up as an employee of that entity and you drew paychecks from it. Because what happens is if you quit your job right now, and a lot of people want to do that, if you quit your job right now and you go out and you try to get a loan, nobody's going to give you any money because you don't have income. You don't have a consistent stream of income. So to replenish and replace the stream of income that all lenders are going to want to see, merely set up an entity that you own, move the paychecks you're getting into the entity, have the entity pay you your paycheck, and now you've just taken your existing revenue, transferred it through another company that you own, but it now is paying you a paycheck. So now you have eliminated the fact that you're unemployed, or self-employed for that matter, because the entity paying you does not necessarily have to be controlled by you. Okay? Controlled by you, and that is the operative word. So keep that in mind. Okay. Tape is back up, so let's go back to our advanced strategy. Okay? Now, before I show this to you, let me give you full disclosure here. And I've said it 9 times, and I know you're getting sick of it, but I really want to make sure that it sits in front of this example. I'm not an attorney or a CPA or legal counsel, so please make sure you consult with someone of that caliber before you attempt to create this structure, okay? Knowing that banks like rate and term refinances, if you are playing with your own cash, do not pay cash for a property out of your personal account. And do not pay cash for a piece of property without encumbering it with some type of a debt instrument. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay? Let's take this same house, this same $75,000 house, since we're on it. And let's say that you don't need money. You've got all the cash in the world. You're going to pay cash for this property. So you're going to buy it in your name. So I'll do this as me. I'm going to buy this as Lee Arnold. So Lee Arnold is going to purchase the property at 1234 Mockingbird Lane for $75,000. However, when you look at the title, I'm going to take title through a warranty deed from the seller. Warranty deed will be in the name of Lee Arnold buyer. And there will be an underlying lien on the title from a company, let's just say a company called MBD. Okay? MBD is an LLC. What does MBD stand for? How about Mortgage Banking Division? You name it. It can stand for anything. But MBD is going to secure a note and deed of trust against the property in the amount of $85,000. Well, why $85,000? Well, because if I'm going to charge myself, because guys, here's the advanced formula strategy. MBD is actually a company owned by me. So I'm borrowing money from myself. But the reason that I'm doing that is if I know banks only want to do rate and term refinances and they don't like sellers leaving closing with, or they don't like refinance people leaving closing with a check, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through, I'm going to fix the property up, I'm going to get an appraisal for $125,000. I need to borrow, or I need to pay back MBD Executive Holdings because they lent me this money on a 90-day term. So I need to refinance to repay MBD. So I'm going to go down to Wells Fargo and I'm going to say, hey, Wells Fargo, I've got a property here worth $125,000. I've got an underlying payoff of $85,000, which represents a loan-to-value payoff rate of 68 cents on the dollar, which is a very safe loan for you, Wells Fargo. And as you can see, I'm not getting any cash out of the deal. I'm merely paying off the underlying lien holder, a rate and term refinance. Now, MBD charged me 18% interest, and they charged me 6 points. So, even if this is our payoff, we would have to bring $1,655 to closing, because Wells Fargo is going to deliver $85,000 to the closing. Now, the way it looks is this. Title goes from here. We're going to see a reconveyance and a new beneficiary from MBD to Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo then will become the beneficiary of a property owned by Lee Arnold with a loan against it from Wells Fargo in the amount of $85,000. Now, because it was a low loan to value, less than 70 cents on the dollar, and it was a rate and term refinance, MBD was charging me 18% interest. Because I've structured this to be such a low-risk investment for Wells Fargo, they're going to give me prime plus 1 or prime plus 2. So now my carrying costs on this property are like 6.5% interest. 6.5% at $85,000. Let's do the math. $85,000 at 6.5% interest on a 30-year term gives me a payment of $537.26. My monthly carrying costs on MBD's money at $75,018 was costing me $1,125. So, by structuring the way that I move money through an entity that I control, I now can get the best rates through rate and term refinances, which now allows me to carry the property at a low monthly payment. So if I'm going to rent it out, I'm going to maximize my cash flow because my cost of money or my carrying costs are only $537 a month. You guys see that? Now, again, if I have lost you on this strategy, it's probably because you're not there yet. You're not ready for it yet, and that's okay. Quite honestly, if you would have showed me this strategy 10 years ago, my eyes would have glazed over, and I would have said, "What you talking about, Willis?" Because who does this? Okay. Furthermore, who teaches you this stuff? And I got to tell you, my attorney actually showed me this. And when I caught on to this, I went, "Holy smokes, this is fantastic." Because had I not attached the lien under MBD and merely just paid my own cash, when I went to Wells Fargo to refinance, it would have been a cash-out refinance. Banks hate cash-out refinance because they're giving you cash. And if you walk away, you've got their money and they have to now foreclose in your house. They hate them. And they're high risk. So had this been a cash-out refinance, the best rate I probably would have got is 9%. Well, what happens to my carrying costs at 9? Watch. $683.93. So this one strategy on one property every month is going to save me $146.67 each and every month. Oh, let me move this up. Now, if I intend to carry this property for the next 60 months, a rate and term refinance saved me $8,800 in interest payments over the 5 years that I'm going to carry and rent this property out. Furthermore, what does it do to my cash flow if I'm renting this thing for, let's say, $950 a month? I'm making an extra $146 in positive cash flow every month by structuring a cash-out refinance in this fashion. Okay? All right. You guys like that one? I love that one. You guys can retire on that strategy alone. You're welcome. Okay. Now, on that refinance strategy, there was a time when I was a licensed mortgage broker. I got tired of all the inherent risks related to being a licensed mortgage broker. Now, I should probably qualify that. I wasn't the licensed mortgage broker. I owned a mortgage company. I hired a broker to come in and be the broker of record for my company so that I could take advantage of making money through residential loans without taking on the liability of being licensed. And that's 100% legal. I did the same thing as a real estate agent. Okay? So what we're seeing at the top of page 32 is based on if you're a licensed mortgage broker. It says, if you are licensed by your state to refinance the loan, demand it be done through you so nothing holds it up. Meaning, if you're a licensed mortgage broker and you're going to be lending money, as part of the condition of funding, you could demand, require, in writing, that if their exit strategy is a refinance, that they have to refinance it through you. So you make the extra point or two on the refinance fees. If their exit strategy is to sell it, well, go get your real estate license and demand that the sale of the property go through you as a licensed agent. So you literally can demand, require as a condition of funding, that the exit strategy also go through you so that you can make another 2 or 3 points on the transaction. Okay? Very, very good stuff. Now, if you're only going to do one of these a year, the licensing fees will eat you alive, so don't do it. If you're going to make this your business, I would highly consider it because there's a lot of money in those little fees of refinancing and selling. All right? Okay, let's go here. Okay. Example 1, property is worth $100,000, borrower needs $85,000. We would only lend if the borrower has collateral and a back-end plan that makes sense. In example 2, if the property was worth $150,000 and the borrower needed $97,500, the numbers are good at $65,000, but still must explore further because we can only lend 65% on the $97,500. They would need to bring in. See, guys, it used to be that lenders would lend based on the after repaired value or the as-is value. But in this marketplace, with property values plummeting drastically all over the place, and there's really no solid ground or footing, everything lenders are doing in today's market is based on your purchase price. They could really care less what you think it's worth. They could really care less what it appraised for. They don't care. All they care about is what are you paying for it? Because the real value of anything, let me give you the definition of value. Value is this: when a ready, willing, and able buyer negotiates and contracts and agrees to buy from a ready, willing, and able seller at a price negotiated under conditions where neither party is in duress. Okay? In short, a seller that doesn't have to sell and a buyer that doesn't have to buy. Whatever that price is, that is the definition of value. So if you have negotiated on a contract and you've got a property that is under contract, you've got it in writing, the price that you've contracted to pay in the mind of the lender is the value. So 65% of the value is the price that was paid or that you've contracted to pay, not what you think it is worth. So if you come in and say, hey, Lee, I've got this property, it's worth $150,000, I need to borrow $97,500, I'm going to say, what's your purchase price? And you're going to say $100,000. And I'm going to say all we can lend is $65,000 because it's 65% of the value of what you're paying. Okay? Types of deals, page 32. Borrower needs $200,000 to invest in a home that after 2 months will be valued at $300,000. 65% loan to value at $300,000 or 65 cents is $195. The most that can be lent. Now, those of you that are taking notes, you've printed this out, please write the following. The most that can be lent if a pre-existing relationship has been created. Meaning, if you don't have a pre-existing relationship with this lender, the most you're going to get, if you need $200,000, if your purchase price on this home is $200,000, the most you're going to get is 65% of that number. Okay? That's it. Not this. You've got to have a pre-existing relationship. All right. Types of deals, cross-collateralization. We've got to move forward here. So let's get to page number 37 and talk about types of borrowers. Let me get to the corresponding slide here. Okay. You must treat hard money lending like any business. There are startup concerns and costs, marketing costs, operational costs, delivery costs, etc. All of this must be considered, but marketing to find buyers is perhaps your most important and most costly activity. The success of your hard money business is very dependent on finding borrowers. Nothing happens until the right borrower is found and your hard money is sold. It's easy to find borrowers willing to pay low points, rates, and fees. The difficult task is finding borrowers who will pay high points, rates, and fees. This takes time and money. Most potential hard money lenders won't spend the required time and money, but it is worth the time and money required. If you can lend the money at a high enough return, even if you spend 25% for marketing, you still make 50% on the money lent at 75% return. All right? So basically what this is saying is this is a business. And if you're going to get people to bring you good deals that you can fund, you're going to have to spend some money on marketing. How much do you guys think that I've spent to rent the space that we're in, the people that I have helping me, all of the camera equipment, all of the lights? I know that you at home can't see those, or you listening now can't see it, but those of you at home watching this after the fact, we spent some money to put this production together. Why am I spending that money? Because this is marketing. You see, for the 100 or so of you that are on the call here and those of you that are watching at home, you're now going to take everything I'm teaching you and you're going to go out and find borrowers that fit these molds, that fit the criteria for what types of loans can be lent. You see, the biggest challenge I have is there is more money available than the amount of good deals that I have coming in. So if I can train all of you guys to go out and find the right types of deals, the right types of borrowers, then I'm going to have an endless supply of deals coming into my office. And when I have an endless supply of deals, I'm now going to have an endless supply of money. Because lenders, people with cash that want to get it out, they're going to come to me in droves because I've got what they need. If you've got money sitting in the bank and I've got people willing to pay 15%, you're probably going to come in search of me. That's what I'm doing. Now, how does that relate to you guys? You need to emulate everything that I'm doing. Why? Because you can do what I'm doing. There's no secret to this. I mean, get a computer, a microphone, and set up a webinar. It's not difficult, all right? That said, I would encourage you to learn this business well and start holding free seminars in your own city, your own state. Put on your own webinars. Let people know that this is the business that you're in so that they now in turn start bringing deals to you. Lee, why in the world would you tell us that? That's ridiculous. You're now creating your own competition. No. I don't have a minimalistic mentality. I believe that the more people I can help be successful and the more millionaires that I can produce from those of you that are listening and watching, the more contacts I'm going to have. Guys, we've got deals coming in. We got a deal in California, 238 acres. $35 million is the amount of money they're looking for. I'm going to take multiple investors and bring them all together to have them put in a percentage of $35 million. So it limits their risk, but we get the funding done. Have you guys done the math on 5 points on $35 million? Let's just do it for fun, okay? $35 million. What's the fee if you get 5 points for doing that deal? It's $1.75 million. For what? For bringing people together on a deal that everyone's going to get paid and everyone's going to make a substantial amount of money. That's a good return on my investment of time here. Guys, it's a Saturday. I'd rather be out at the park playing with my kids, quite honestly. But I know that taking the time to teach you this today is going to reap benefits long into the future because I'm now creating rapport with you. I'm establishing a relationship with you, and I'm building trust with you because hopefully by now you guys might be getting the inclination that I know a little bit about this business, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you make money at it and to protect you in it. And that's valuable. And that's that trust I'm looking for. That's the relationships I want to be building so that we can be making massive amounts of money together. So take everything that I'm doing here and go implement it in your market. You want to borrow my slides so you can put on this event in your town? Great. Send me an email. You can have the slides. Because if you can take this and go share this gospel with other people, we're now going to create a huge infrastructure, a big network of people that we can go to when these big deals come to us. I got a deal just the other day, $55 million for a big shopping mall over in Kansas. Anybody want to get involved in that deal? Well, maybe you can, okay? All right, page 38. And go to the bottom of the page here where it says buyers have different needs. Buying a fixer-upper to repair and flip in 2 months, maybe that's their need. They're buying a fixer-upper to keep as a rental. Now remember, If they're buying as a fixer-upper to keep as a rental, we need to make sure that they're going to qualify for a refinance, because we cannot be carrying this hard money loan for them for the next 5 and 10 years. It's not the kind of loans we do. We're looking for short-term, high-yield, low-risk loans, and if they're looking to keep it as a rental, you've got to establish that they can qualify for that refinance. Tearing a building down to rebuild for highest and best use. Okay, here's the issue. If that's the type of loan they're looking for, but they're using the building as the collateral to support the value, but their exit strategy is to tear down and rebuild, we can only lend 50% of the value of the dirt. If you're tearing the building down, it's not going to be there. So in the event of default and we've got to regain possession of the real property, there's no building. So we can only lend based on the value of the dirt, okay? Not based on the value of the improvements, because the improvements don't yet exist. And that's the point, guys. We can't be lending on future value based on dreams, wishes, goals, desires, or hopes that the market's going to rebound. Can't lend on that. We can only lend based on real value in today's market at today's dollar. All right. People want having a developer build a house over a 5-month period of time. You know what? We have done some construction loans. We don't do them anymore, mainly because builders are a dime a dozen. It's not hard to call yourself a builder. It's not hard to get the necessary licensing and the requirements. And there's no guarantee that they're going to pay their subs, their suppliers, their handymen, and then we're left holding a partially finished house with a bunch of laborers that are suing us for not getting paid. Okay, so I would encourage you to avoid partially finished construction, because it is riddled with all kinds of liability. Unless the partially finished construction has gone to foreclosure sale and all of the claims from those handymen and those suppliers have been wiped out or baptized through that foreclosure transaction, only then would I even look at them. But even at that, you know, there's so many other good deals out there. You really don't have to work very hard or try very hard to find something that you can make money with. Okay. Page 39, banks lend on longer terms and are more concerned about credit than hard money lenders. Hard money lenders prefer short-term loans because they produce much higher yields. Hard money lenders depend very little on past payment history and depend heavily on property value and highest and best use scenarios. I got this email from a guy named John. I want to share it with you. John says, if you can, please give me some feedback on this one. Another call for funds from my ad in Palm Beach, Florida newspaper. He says, this is a property located in West Palm Beach. The owner is Greg Richard. He's renting it to a niece who plans to purchase it with new financing about 6 months from now. Greg wants to borrow $155,000 against it and pay off the existing first of $68,000 funded by a private lender. Greg will use the other $87,000 to pay property taxes due at $3,500 and other business and personal uses. The hard money lender would take the new first after the $68,000 loan balance is paid off. Fair market value is $250,000 based on an appraisal from October of 2009, which makes it old. And agreed sales price with the niece is $225,000. Greg's credit is not great. He works with a company that does cash advances to companies. He also has been involved with Lou Pinella on land development in Connecticut. Don't have many details on this. Getting a title report abstract on the subject property and have floated numbers to Greg of 4+ points and 14% interest for 6 months. He is also interested in early payoff details, i.e. what happens if he can pay this off sooner than 6 months. What does Lee Arnold think and or advise? Okay. Here's the email as I answered it to him. Okay. There are a number of things to consider in this deal. First of all, the appraisal is from October of 2009, which means it's almost 6 months old. As you know, Florida values are plummeting rapidly, and a new appraisal would need to be done. Second, you are requesting 68% loan to value on a property with a very large portion coming back in the form of cash. This always concerns me unless the cash coming back was cash he originally put into the deal. If it is, then it's not a big deal. So effectively, if the borrower has put in the cash that they're wanting to take out, that's a rate and term refinance. However, if they've put in a minimal amount of cash and now they're wanting to borrow against the equity, this is cash they did not have. This is not skin that was originally in the game, and now they're asking to get it back. Risky, red flag. Third, the takeout plan involves a family member. which means they could have doctored a purchase and sale agreement to make the deal appear more stable. We would need to see a large non-refundable deposit from the niece, as well as a credit report and a letter of approval for a mortgage. With all of these things in place, it could very well be a doable loan. All right. Now, guys, you need to understand something here. Everything I'm saying came from a simple email. I didn't have to look at the property. I didn't have to pull title. I didn't need to look at an appraisal. I didn't have to do anything. I can just look at this email and immediately know that this thing has some real challenges to it. And even though we can figure out, we can do due diligence on all of those challenges, it is a deal we're going to have to spend some time on to make sure that it's a good investment. I will tell you, in today's market, this is going to be a challenging deal to do because of the deal elements that I mentioned that make me question this thing. Why is it challenging in today's market? You know what? 2-3 years ago, this would have been a very, very easy loan to close. In today's market, it's a very challenging deal to close because there are so many great deals that are just cut and dry. There's no family members involved. There's no cash out refinances. It's just a simple purchase. They've got money to put down, or it's an existing property where they've got substantial equity and they're just refinancing it or collateralizing it to get cash for future investments. Guys, there are so many easy deals out there. I'm fascinated at the amount of time and energy that some of you exert to make a deal close that isn't even a deal. If you would spend that same time and energy looking for the types of deals that I'm talking about, simple, no-brainer, in and out, there's a ton of them. If you would take the time to find those, you'd be amazed how much cash you'd make and how quickly you would make it. So please, I beg of you, stop calling my office and emailing my people and saying, you said you do this and that. Guys, if we're not funding it, it's not a good deal. And it's in your best interest that we not fund it. It's nothing personal. It's just in your best interest. On page 41, I've given you a list of questions that you can ask. What I would like you to do is, if you are running the ad in Craigslist, and if you're not, you should be. The ad is private money lender, money to lend on good real estate, can close within 48 hours. Call your name, your phone number. Okay, if you're running that ad, when people call you on the ad, I would like you to walk through the list of questions found on page 41. Okay? Question 1, how much money do you need to borrow? Describe the project for which you will borrow the money. For how long do you need to borrow the money? What do you expect to pay for points and fees? How much personal cash will you be able to invest in the project? Page 42. How will you collateralize the loan? What do you expect to happen if you're not able to pay the loan off in time? How soon after you decide to borrow will you need the money? And what do you plan to do with the project? Okay? Ask them all of those questions. And if those questions check out, great. Let's move on to the next deal. Okay? All right. So here are the questions to ask the borrower. And that's going to take us into our loan analyzer. I'm going to skip over title search here. Actually, I'm going to cover title search after lunch, so we'll get to that. So here's what's needed to analyze a loan, all right? So when you guys are sending deals to my office, or maybe you're going to package them yourself and then take them to your own list of lenders, here's what you need to analyze the loan. First of all, credit score and financial history if the borrower is new, all right? Value the property based on comps, at least 65% of the value. Borrower involvement is huge. If they're not putting any money down, if they don't have any money to put in this game, and when you ask them for money, they say, no, I'm not putting any money, then just tell them boldly, then we're not going to fund the deal. Okay? If people are coming to you in search of funds and they don't have any cash, they are an incredible high risk. And even exerting the time and the energy to find the money, because if you looked hard enough, you could find it. Is it really the best use of your time? Is it really the best use of your time? If there are millions of investors out there buying property at 65% or less that have a willingness and an ability to put cash into a deal, go find them. Okay? Don't try to make something out of nothing. Or if they don't have skin in the game, do they have any other assets that they can cross-collateralize? What is the nature of the project? What's the address? the location, the year built, the size of the property, the lot size, the condition of the property, the repair costs, use of the property, what's the existing zoning, what is the title history, what's owed, is title free and clear, the details of the sale, the days on market, earnest money, closing date, title company, and then what is their back-end exit strategy, all right? Now, I would like you guys to dog ear, meaning fold down pages 45 and 46, okay? Because if you want funding to happen quickly on your deals, whether you're bringing them to me or someone else, you need to collect and gather all of the data that is found on pages 45 and 46. If you bring that to us in a completed package, then we can move very quickly. If you send us just random information and we now have to send you an email back that says we need all of the following, it's going to delay the process, okay? So make sure that you're bringing us completed packages. Now, the other thing I'm hearing from some of you is, Lee, your office, I submitted a form and your office hasn't called me in 2 or 3 weeks. Well, here's why. You submitted an incomplete package, you didn't deliver all of the required items necessary for due diligence, and you haven't followed up, okay? So if you've submitted loans and you're not getting follow-up, you probably submitted an incomplete package. And guys, we're no different than any other lender out there. We are going to pick the lowest hanging fruit. So the people that bring us the cleanest deals, packaged the right way, they're going to get attention before anybody else. And if you have a problem with that, put yourself in our shoes. You're running a company to make money, and you got all these people sending you garbage deals, but you got some people that are sending you just beautifully packaged products that funding is readily available for. And if you pursue time and energy on those, you're going to get paid very, very rapidly. Where are you going to spend your time? Where are you going to spend your time? All right? So I want to encourage all of you. Those deals are out there, and they're really easy to find. Just spend a little more time looking for them. Invest some money in marketing, okay? Now, as many of you know, you can fill out this application online through our company, and we ask you a bunch of different things here. But I will tell you this, those of you that have used this form to submit packages to us, you're going to get an email back asking you to produce all of the information found on pages 45 and 46. So you can certainly fill this form out. It's great. It's a nice template. However, we're still going to need all of the due diligence items to be able to tell you whether or not the loan is fundable. Okay? Now, I told you that this session was going to show you how to find deals that you can use to get paid quickly. So let's see here. Okay, there's the online ordering form. Okay. I told you I was going to show you deals where funding is readily available and deals are easy. Here's a perfect example of what hard money lenders and private money lenders like to see. Now, my parents are the most conservative people on the planet Earth. They've been in their house for like 35 years. My mom's worked at the school district for 20 plus years. She's getting ready to retire. My father, college degree, corporate world his whole life. Same house, same cars, pay cash for the majority of everything. They squeak when they walk, and quite honestly, they think that my business is incredibly risky. Yet they wonder how I live in big houses and drive fancy cars. Okay? It's really quite simple. I invest my time and energy in deals that give me high yields, low risk. Okay? And the reason I went through all that is this deal right here that you're looking at, this is the type of deal that the most conservative people on the planet would look at investing in. Even my parents would invest in this deal. Let's look at it. Page 51 in your manual if you're following along in that. Quick payday investment. This is a perfect example. This is Dale. Dale was actually on one of my gold calls last week, and I'm really hoping that we can do this deal for Dale because it really truly is an easy deal. But Dale says, Lee, here's my situation. I own 2 properties for free and clear. One is in Beaverton, Oregon. The other is in Richfield, Washington. I have rents coming in of $2,000 each and every month. I own the properties free and clear, and I have for the last 5 years. He says, I acquired them by using my 1031. I did a 1031 tax-deferred exchange into these properties, and I've been renting them this whole time. He said, I would like to borrow some money against these properties so that I can invest in future deals. He says, what can you do? I said, well, without even looking at this deal, I can tell you that I can get you 50 cents on the dollar by next week. These properties have a fair market value of about $365,000, and I'm quoting that from memory. Again, I don't know if that's accurate. But 60 cents on the dollar on this deal, 182.5. Okay? If Dale's going to pay 4 points, 12% interest for the next 30 years with a 2 or 3 year call, what's 4 points on that number? It's $7,300. Okay? Now, if you give 1 point to the lender and you keep the rest, you're making $5,400. Why? Because it's a great deal. Now, how did this deal come to me? Well, I put on seminars, I teach people how to invest, I teach people how to make money, I do gold calls with my list, I talk to my customers, I heavily network with anyone and everyone I can find, and as a result, deals come in. Okay? So if deals aren't coming into you, my question is, what are you doing to attract these opportunities? What are you doing to get people to bring these deals to you so that you then can provide funding for them? Let me tell you one of the easiest ways to get this business started and off the ground rapidly. Next time you're at a cocktail party or a church function or a school something for your kids, and people ask you what you do, I don't care what you do for a career, I don't care how you make money, start introducing yourself as a lender. Because there's no licensing requirements to be a lender, right? Unless you're lending conventional money to homeowners and you're going through all of those pains. Introduce yourself as a lender. And they're going to say, oh, really? Well, what kind of lending do you do? Well, I do investment lending. I provide funds for investors that have good investment opportunities. Do you know of anybody? Well, no. Well, here's my card. If you can think of anybody, why don't you have them give me a call? If you know anybody that needs cash, have them call me. Refer to yourself as the cash lady or the cash man. Okay? Create a brand around yourself. Get everyone in your marketplace familiar that if you need cash, you call that guy. This is how you attract these types of loans. Okay? Now, on page 52, we also have what I refer to as a risky time investment. Notice that I didn't say a risky investment. I said a risky time investment. And that's where a lot of you are spinning your wheels. You are chasing stuff that, yeah, potentially it could be good. There might be some value there. But the problem is you're going to spend a lot of your time and you're going to absorb a lot of my time and my staff's time going after some of these deals that are just so far out in left field that certainly you could make it be a home run deal if you could get funding for it. But guys, you need to know this. Babe Ruth was the home run king. Hit more home runs than anybody. What most people don't realize about Babe Ruth is he hit just as many singles, doubles, and triples that he did home runs, and he was the top leader in strikeouts. So what does that mean? It means Babe Ruth swung for the fence more often than anybody, and 9 times out of 10 he was going to hit a single or a triple or a double and not a home run. And some of you guys are bringing me these $40, $50, $100 million deals, and I appreciate it. But guys, I got to tell you, you need to focus on where your bread is buttered. And let me give you the bread butter portion. Here it is. Bread and butter deals are between $50,000 at the low and about $350,000 at the high that are single-family homes being purchased by investors for rehab and fix-up and resale in established neighborhoods where there's already a demographic makeup of buyers that want to live there, where any renovation or repair done to the subject property will make it look just like the rest. That is the sweet spot. You want to get paid fast, find those deals, because those are easy. But when you're bringing me farms in the middle of Texas, when you're bringing me deals like this, and this one is actually in Belize, the country of Belize. Now, the guy that wants money on this deal, he actually is looking for like $2.5 million, putting up his Belize island as collateral so that he can invest in property in the States. Now guys, even if this was a 25 or a 30 cent on the dollar deal, it's still, even though it might look good on paper, where are you going to find an investor that wants to put their money secured against property in Belize? Because what happens if they don't pay you back? Do I want to own an island in Belize? I really have no interest. Maybe Anthony Robbins does. Give him a call. But for me, I don't want an island in Belize. And finally, in closing, to think like an investor, here's what you absolutely have to know. The way that investors determine whether or not you're going to get funding on your deal is by asking themselves, am I interested in owning that property? Because if you don't pay me back, and if we don't get our money back to our lenders, that are our investment partners that we do business with, if we don't get them their money back, their only remedy is to foreclose and get possession of the real property. So what they have to ask themselves and what we ask ourselves is, for the amount of money you're asking me to lend, am I willing to own that particular investment, that particular property for that amount of cash? And if the answer is yes, you get the loan. If the answer is no, you don't get the loan. Okay? When I pull up to a property, somebody has called me and said, Lee, will you fund this? I drive up to the property and I look at it, and here's what I'm seriously thinking. Okay, they want to borrow 75 grand on this house. And here's my thought. Am I interested in owning that house for $75,000? And if the answer is no, you don't get the loan. Okay? If the answer is maybe, I'm now going to think to myself, all right, 75 grand, I don't want it for 75 grand, but I'd buy that house for 50,000. Tell you what, Mr. and Mrs. Investor, you need to borrow 75. You put up 25,000 of your own money. I'll put up 50,000 of my own money, and then we can do this deal. See, now we've taken something that wasn't going to work, but because they were willing to participate and I was willing to own that property for 50,000, we were able to fund that deal. Okay? And that's really what it comes down to. Is the investor willing to take on that liability, to take on that risk at the amount of money that you're looking to borrow? If they are, good news, you get the loan. If they aren't, bad news, you don't get the loan. Okay? All right, hopefully you guys have had a great session. I'm going to take 2 questions because I know everyone's starving and we need to go to lunch. Although I guess on the East Coast it's like, 12:33, 12:31, 3:30? 3:30 for you Easterners. Okay, let's see what we got here. A lot of questions, great. Joanne says, what do you mean to get the best possible blended rate? Okay, that was the one at the top of the call. I went the wrong way. Let's go the other direction here. As for the question, okay, could you repeat the Craigslist ad? Investor has money to lend on good real estate, can close within 40 hours or less. Okay, Kirk says, you just said that you're only interested in high-yield, short-term stuff. Where does one go for longer-term private or hard money if not you? Kirk, you can still bring it to me, okay? But there are some deals that I will personally get involved in. There are other deals that I will take out to other investors. And for me, I don't like to lend money longer than 6 months. But we have a lot of lenders that we do business with, and they will lend for 12, 24, and 36 months. And the type of products that they really are interested in are in refinances. They're looking for investment properties where the owners have been there for a while or they've owned it for a while. It can't be an owner-occupied deal. And they will lend at relatively reasonable rates, 11, 12, 13% interest. And they will lend it on a 30-year AM with a 2 or a 3-year call. So there's a lot of lenders out there that will lend longer. And Kurt, I'm glad you asked the question because I certainly don't want to pigeonhole all of you into thinking that you can only get short-term high-yield loans. There's actually longer loans, lower yielding, but we're going to take them out to some of our investment partners who have a different structure than we do. We are looking for high-yield, low-risk. Okay? I see a lot of interest in the Kansas City deal. We'll get there. Okay, one more, let's see. Kurt says, this advanced strategy is great, but I can't find a lender who will do loans if you already have 4 or more. Any comment as I have looked? Absolutely. The word you're not supposed to use, Kurt, is what's called a straw buyer. And I'm not encouraging a straw buyer, but let me qualify what that means. A straw buyer is someone with good credit, strong financial statement, where the person who owns the property brings them on as a partner to refinance, but then they give them no control, no ownership, no nothing. They put the borrower in the dark. Borrower has no idea what they're getting themselves into. There's no full disclosure, and as a result, that situation usually ends ugly. And that's why straw buying has become such a don't do it. All right. Now you can accomplish the same thing legally, ethically, morally, honestly by disclosing to the person with great credit what you're doing. So you would go to them and say, hey, you know what, I've got this investment property, it's turning out some good cash flow, I'd like to hold it long term, but I've got 4 properties in my name, which means I can't get any more. Tell you what, if you take this property in your name, you get the financing, I'll give you 25% of the monthly rents as well as the end equity when we sell. Or 10%, 15%. Have them start with the price and go from there, okay? But get someone else as a partner to get involved with you, okay? Could you tell us how it is you like? Could you tell us how it is like when you foreclosure? Doesn't it cost a lot of money to do? How do you afford it? Okay, Joanne, I'm going to read between the lines and assume that the question you're asking is, in the event that you have to regain possession of the real property, what does the foreclosure proceedings cost? If you are in a non-judicial foreclosure state, which is typically the western states, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, California, these are non-judicial foreclosure states. The process to foreclose in those markets typically takes 4.5 months at a cost ranging anywhere from $1,250 to $700, or $1,250 on up to $2,500. Okay, that's in a non-judicial foreclosure state. Now, in a judicial foreclosure state, typically eastern states, North Carolina, Florida, New York, Michigan, you guys are in judicial foreclosure states. The judicial process takes a lot longer. It's typically 6 to 18 months to foreclose at a cost ranging anywhere from $2,500 up to $7,500. And the reason it's so much more expensive is in a judicial foreclosure state, you have to foreclose judiciously, meaning you've got to sue the owner. And that process of attorneys and courtrooms and all of that stuff, it's very cumbersome and it's very time consuming, and as a result it's very expensive. Because of those things, on eastern states, if it's a judicial foreclosure process, lenders typically will limit the threshold that they'll lend from 65% down to 60, 58, 59 or less, to make sure that in the event of default those fees and the time involved in foreclosing can be absorbed. Okay? So it really is a risk-reward ratio, and in judicial foreclosure states, you really have to take those matters into account. So Joanne, a very, very good question. One more. Can you provide the advanced strategy in a schematic and email it to me so I can discuss it with one of your consultants? How do I get involved in Kansas City project as a sweat equity partner? Brian, I admire your courage. Thank you for asking the question. You can call and talk with one of my consultants at any time, 800-341-9918. However, I will tell you this, I don't teach these strategies to my consultants, because if they knew how to do what I do, they wouldn't be my consultants, they'd be my competitors, all right? As far as a schematic on this thing, I think you get the point, all right? If you want to call, schedule an appointment, I can take 10 or 15 minutes to walk you through it, but for now we just don't have the time, okay? Okay, thanks for the info idea regarding good credit partner straw buyers. Love your spontaneity. Okay, just between you and I, Kurt, let's not use the word straw buyers anymore. Chris says, do you ask borrower for a deed in lieu of foreclosure? No, Chris, because I don't want the litigation and the liability associated with it, and even if I did get it, I wouldn't use it. Reason being is, a deed in lieu of foreclosure, contrary to popular opinion and belief, does not baptize the title. The only thing that baptizes the title is by going through the entire foreclosure process and eliminating all of the junk that happened while that person owned that property. So let me give you an example. We lend on a fixer-upper property. It needs $15,000 worth of renovation or repair. Borrower defaults, walks away from the deal. We issue the deed in lieu of foreclosure, and pretty soon we start getting all of these these contractors and suppliers coming out and suing us because we didn't foreclose out their claims on title. And it puts you in a very tough position. So even if I got it signed, I would never record it because it literally takes my power away to clean the title. So I would rather foreclose because, guys, this is something I haven't talked about. When you foreclose as a lender, as a hard money lender, when you foreclose through that process, not only can you regain possession of the real property, but you can also pursue deficiency judgments against the borrowers. So quite honestly, the longer the foreclosure process takes, the more money you're going to owe us. So you got to take that into consideration as well. But guys, some great questions, and I sense by the questions I'm hearing that you guys are really starting to dig this stuff, which excites me. I love it. That said, I got to go eat some food, guys. I got a chicken Caesar salad waiting for me. So we are going to take a 1-hour pause. It is right now, according to, well, I'll use my phone here, so I've got digital time. Right now it is 12:40 Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time. We're going to reconvene at 1:40. And we're going to go through the process of how you get paid and what that looks like. So exactly 1:40 Pacific Daylight Time. So take an hour. When you log back on, make sure you log into the link for session 3. The passcode for session 3 is the word session, SESSION 03. And make sure you join us at 1:40 Pacific Daylight Time. Good job, guys. We'll talk to you soon.